Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode 1. I am your host, Jason, and I'm joined, as always, as usual, with Will.
It's crazy that we've been doing this for almost 3-4 weeks now, and it's finally episode 1, proper episode 1.
Yeah, don't date us, man.
I know, but what I'm saying is that we've been pumping a lot of content, and it's still just the first episode. Proper episode. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to roll out more stuff. But it looks like this journey is going to be very, very long and hopefully very fruitful.
Yeah, exactly. Fruitful. I was going to say that too. Like, great minds think alike.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So, has a lot happened in the past week?
Yeah.
I mean, it's February now. It feels like January kind of just blew past us really quickly.
I mean, 2021, how's it going for you so far?
It's same old.
Oh, yeah?
It's literally 2020 part 2.
Plus 1.
Yeah. It's like all of a sudden we've had like a 13th and the 14th month of 2020. Nothing's really changed. But, you know, let's not harp too much about what's happened in the past year.
Actually, we will get into that.
Not right now, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, let's try and have a little more of like a little more positivity before we start hitting you with some, you know, some throwback of 2020.
Yeah.
Or throwaway of 2020.
So, Will, we got 2 episodes out, the episode 0 and the After Dark. And we have gotten some feedback from a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so far it seems that, you know, if we're just going to be talking very quickly about the downloads, just the listening ship as well, it's been good.
It's been good.
We've gotten some consistent downloads throughout the past 2 weeks, and you know, we're very happy that the listeners are keeping it consistent. We really do appreciate the supports, and this is the kind of thing that keeps us going and wanting to produce more of this content to, you know, bring you back in, and hopefully we'll be talking more topics that interest you, engage with you, you know, give you more of a reason to keep tuning in every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it is just... Well, I mean, I think our expectations in the beginning were like, hey, if anybody out there were to listen, it would be great.
Yeah, it's crazy that, you know, this was essentially a dream, like not even a month ago, and all of a sudden now things are actually getting to a point where, yo, this is happening for real.
Right.
We actually have a platform that we can roll out the things we want to talk about, and people will actually come and listen.
Yeah, speaking of things to talk about, so... We have gotten a lot of feedback, some of which we will address. Actually, just 2 things that we will address. The first thing has to do with our name, Will. We are known as, you guys probably know, the listeners.
The Good Anime Podcast. With a palette in between.
The Good Anime Palette Podcast. That is correct. We have, throughout the 2 episodes, have talked about our relating to the palette in terms of our sense of taste. And a lot of people... rightfully so pointed out that, hey, the way that you spell palette is like the artist tool rather than palette for the taste.
Jason, did you know that my mother tongue is actually not English?
I mean...
My first language is actually Cantonese.
I mean, I was born in Hong Kong, so...
See, I was born in Canada, but because my parents didn't really speak as much English, Cantonese was the main sort of mode of communication. It was only when I got into, like... nursery, like kindergarten, that I started learning to speak English. It wasn't hard to pick up, you know, being 2 or 3, you pick up things quite quickly. But English is not quite my strong suit, even though, you know, I've studied in English institutions for almost 20 years. But I was previously an English teacher. But, you know, sometimes you want to be a little creative, and sometimes we forget that, you know, the words that we use don't necessarily mean the words that we intend to convey to people.
Except that was all just a lie, because we actually planned this all out.
Aha, psych.
Because we very much realize it was on, like, the palette for the taste and the palette in terms of the artist tool are spelt differently, but we knew that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we just went in there and it's like, yeah, we're totally just winging it. No, it was a calculated move.
Exactly. So the connection is they both sound the same, and anime is art, and we will actually get into that with a later episode. But
if anything, it's a homonym, right? It's, you know, same pronunciation,
wow.
not quite the same spelling, but same pronunciation, different origins and different meaning.
Is that what it's called?
I should tell you that my undergrad when I was in college was sociolinguistics.
Oh wow, snap.
Yeah. and I did a language studies master's.
Yep.
So
cool.
Hopefully,
put it to good use
for the podcast. Yes, that's exactly why I got my master's.
Yeah, it was written from the start.
Just like how you are doing your biomedical engineering degree, so you can really understand the prosthetics that Violet Evergarden uses, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. That 100%. 100%.
It all comes back to anime.
Inspector. There's an amputee there too, wearing prosthetics.
You have been watching that, haven't you?
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, so we understand that the Good Anime Palette name, it was intentional. We understand that. We will then keep that into consideration, but it's all set in stone, and
whatever, man. Palette is palette, art is food, food is art. Everything's all about taste. Let's move on to talk about some real anime.
Oh, actually, before that, Will, there is also another thing that we have to address, which is our rating system. So
well, before we even go into that, it's like, why are we even talking about a rating system in the first place? Because don't we just use things like My Anime List or IMDb or even like Google just to give us like an 8 out of 10 or like a 4.5 out of 5 or whatever? Like why can't we just use those? Why do we have to come up with the Good Anime Palette scoring system?
It's interesting that you mentioned My Anime List, because you all right there, buddy?
I'm fine.
The My Anime List is one of, I guess, the main sources of information we use for anime and manga, and it just so happens that they rate on a 10-point scale, except hardly anybody uses anything below a 5. So
yeah, I think we're both in agreement where if a show is trending towards anything below a 5, like it's an immediate
drop it like it's hot,
right? Like we don't want to be spending that much time trying to see if there's any merit to watching the show, if it gets any better. I mean, if we were to even look and use the 10-point scale for My Anime List, right? 10 being a masterpiece, 9 being great, 8 being very good, 7 being good, and then 6 being fine. So 5 is average, and everything else underneath is just either bad, very bad, horrible, or appalling.
Right.
And I don't think we want to have it on our anime and manga resume that we've been consuming and completing things that are below a 5.
But also sometimes, Will, when we watch a certain show, we're like, oh, this is like between an 8 or a 9 in terms of the 10-point My Anime List scale. But I really wish that there was a 0.5 scale. And then it just so happens that actually the 10-point scale can be, like if you were to take the 5 to 10 and then turn it into 0 to 10, you would get essentially that, except the community does not use it.
No, it's very much just own personal scoring systems. If it was just through, I think it's just the fact that the engineers who build the system are just lazy and they don't want to include decimal points into the calculations, because they probably already have an algorithm that calculates everything. If you were to put in decimal points, it would just fuck everything up. So I understand they're not going to implement it, but for the sake of our listeners, for the sake of ourselves, we're going to be sort of taking that sort of 10-point scale, but simplifying it.
Exactly. So basically what we're doing is going to do a 5-star rating system with half stars. And if you want to have context for My Anime List, essentially 0 stars is a 5, 5 stars is a 10, and then half increments, you can just surmise that it is in between.
Just basically like the 0 to 10 divided by 2. That's our scoring.
Exactly. And when you hear us reference My Anime List scores, we will then explicitly say so and then have our own rating system. That way you know which is which.
It's just to give you extra points of reference, because whatever's on the internet, it is like one of the easiest ways to understand what you're about to watch. But at the same time, it's like you look at a show and it says, oh, this is a 7.5. Well, okay, that's below an 8. It means it's pretty good. But there are shows that we've watched that on the internet they say it's a 7, but for us it's maybe an 8. In the rare case, it's a 9 too, where we're like, how the hell did people end up giving the score a much lower score than what we predicted in the first place? So that's why it's like we like using MAL, but we also know it's very community driven, which means that we do need to give it a little bit more context, and hopefully through the use of this podcast, it gives you a more sort of a clear image, a clear understanding of why we're trying to push for a certain show, even if on Mal or on IMDb or any internet,
Crunchyroll,
anything like it's lower than what we say. We're not saying we're correct all the time, but I am saying we are correct all the time.
Well, all right, enough of that. You know what time it is, Will? It is anime time.
So it's been a pretty rough week for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's only really been one show that I've actually been keeping up with. Actually, two to be fair, but one of them very, very religiously. It's not hard to guess what it is. It's Attack on Titan. It is so goddamn good, and it's great that they also release it weekly on Netflix, albeit a couple days after it gets released in Japan. So it's still still pretty much up to date. I think they're on episode 8 now. So I don't know what else I need to say to tell you people to watch. First of all, to all the haters that started like shitting on the studio after like episode 5 or 6, shut the fuck up. I don't understand. Like, watching that episode was so fucking hype. It's been so good ever since that episode. If you want to know what episode I'm talking about, just watch it,
and you'll know.
It's on Netflix. It's on fucking Netflix.
Speaking of good shows, I have been watching a bunch of shows that I want to give some brief updates, and some new shows that I've been watching as well to give some first impressions.
I'm guessing you're probably going to be starting off with Horimiya because
still awesome,
still one of your favorites this season, right?
Yeah, I mean, probably anime of the season, and in contention for anime of the year.
Anime of the season when you're rolling out Attack on Titan, the final season, alongside it.
How about this?
That's
when part 2 comes out.
That's a big Titan to overcome, dude.
Dude, it's Horimiya, man.
To be fair, it is quite well done. I think it's just I have my own personal biases. Some of you might have heard from our After Dark episode how I feel about certain genres, but Horimiya is pretty good. I would say that.
And right now, it's the last episode. There was a turning point, sort of like the plot turning point, and it'll be interesting to see how they adapt it. And there are certain characters that will show up after this turning point that I am dying to see and hear. Yeah.
So I think 2 shows that you haven't been picking up, definitely watch Attack on Titan, Horimiya. I even say Wonder Egg too. There's still,
definitely
there's
Wonder Egg.
Really still no room for us to describe what the show's about because it would just literally give it away. You just have to go in like almost like you're blindfolded. Just go in blind, put it on, watch it, come back to us. Hey, we have a Twitter page.
Yeah.
We have a Twitter account. We have an email. Let us know your thoughts. Really, just go ahead, pick up some of the recommendations we have. If you like it, tell us what you liked about it. If you hate it, address it to Jason.
Yes.
And tell him why Horimiya sucks.
Yes.
Or address it to me and why Attack on Titan sucks. If that's the case, then we'll probably...
Don't worry, I'll delete that email. You'll never see it.
We'll probably blacklist you.
Yeah, you'll never see it. You'll never see the email. So no blacklisting. Everyone, I'm Switzerland over here, okay?
Yeah. So yeah, going off on the other stuff I've been watching, Cells at Work Black. It's still funny. It's still good. It's actually more funny than original Cells at Work. So if you haven't watched it yet and you want to, you already are caught up with Attack on Titan, Horimiya, Wonder Egg, pick that up. Dr. Stone, pretty good as well. I'd say it can take a little bit of time to build up towards. I mean, it's called the Stone Wars, so it's going to take a little time to build up, but it's still entertaining, still informative. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was actually there's 2 more things I wanted to talk about. One of which was unfortunately Skate the Infinity. So we actually had a look at some of the Mal ratings, the Reddit ratings as well, and I think it was episode 3, right? Episode 3, where it was like the massive spike in terms of its rating.
I think it was rated the best episode of that week.
So I watched that episode and it was fucking awful. I don't understand why the rating jumped so high.
And then it dropped, by the way.
Yeah, it's actually done worse since that episode. And I get if you like Bones, Bones is a great studio, and if we're talking just purely from an animation standpoint, Skate the Infinity looks gorgeous. The only thing that takes it down, and which is why I'm dropping it, is that the dialogue is so garbage.
Are you telling me Skater Boys don't make it happen for you?
I'm sorry, but see you later, boy. Like I'm not watching. I'm not watching it. I'm sorry. Even Avril can't save Skate the Infinity.
Wow, that was
so that one's a drop.
Yep.
Unfortunately. I mean, what are we gonna do? Like, it's if you wanted to watch a pretty show, just watch Horimiya.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Right? And it's not a slate against Bones. Bones did a great job. I just think the writing staff just fucked it. That's it. I'm sorry. But yeah. Like that's I think that's essentially what I've been watching.
Wait, don't you have one more thing?
Well, I mean, are you talking about another thing that both of us have been watching, or
no? Promised Neverland, right?
Yeah, it's okay. It's decent. Yeah, moving on.
Okay, all right.
No, I think I might have to sort of take back a bit on what I said in the sense that like it's slowly building up towards it. That I guess that's what a build-up is supposed to be. It's supposed to slowly get to your destination. It's slowed down a bit. I can see where like when it's done, it's going to be so hype. But there's been like 4 episodes out, and it's an 11-episode season. So that means I would have to wait another 7 weeks to get to the point where I'm about to be hype, and that just sounds really dumb. Look, it's still a decent show. It's still holding a pretty decent rating on my anime list. I probably rate it a little bit lower, but
it'll be interesting to see the anime only content.
It's not bad so far. I have to say it's been pretty good, but it's not season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I love season 1. I haven't seen season 2, but season 1 was really good.
Yeah, so I guess that's what. And I also completely dropped Community Hen. Don't watch that.
Okay.
There are much better shows to watch.
I actually rewatched Other Side Picnic.
After a whole 2-3 weeks of saying you were going to pick it up, you finally picked it up. Was it worth it?
So I watched it a while ago, and I thought it was all right. Not great adaptation, but it did its job, but I'm a bit disappointed. I rewatched it, and it only affirmed my opinion. For example, the 2D and 3D transitions are like very obvious, very jarring. And at the end of the day, I think it's all right, but it's just not as horrific or as suspenseful as the manga or light novel makes it out to be from what I can tell. So it's a fine adaptation, but it doesn't really bring anything that I would say is that makes it be like, oh wow, this is the anime that is like awesome.
So from an animation standpoint, would you say it looks good, looks decent?
It's fine.
Right.
That's the best and worst thing I can say about it.
So what's funny is that it's actually done by Leiden Films.
Yes.
Which on one hand, they do Cells at Work Black. And on the other hand, they also did 2016 Berserk.
Yes.
So which one is it more of?
I mean, do you like the 3D in Berserk?
What are you seriously asking me?
Sorry, that's a rhetorical question. So imagine Cells at Work in 2D, right?
Yeah.
And then imagine the 3D of Berserk had a baby.
Yeesh. Okay. All right.
There you go. End of story.
Right.
I will see if it gets any better, but I think it's just fine.
Yeah. So based on the other stuff you've been watching too, like would you say that this season is like it's a bit much to say it's the season of the isekais, but
yeah, because
there's some sequels, there's like some new stuff as well. Is there anything else that you've picked up this season?
Definitely. So speaking of isekais, I watched.
Maybe like a quick rundown of what an isekai is.
Oh, that's correct. So isekai is a translation of, I think it means literally another world. And usually what this means is people in modern life, they get transported to this other world. Whether it is sometimes they just get transported, like a ray of light or whatever, or they die and they get reincarnated. Like that's a whole thing. And this genre has been picking up so much steam in the past half decade or so. Even more so. Like, when was... I think the first major one that really made a lot of impact... I mean, isekai have lasted since the dot hack anime days. But...
Are we just going to ignore Digimon?
Okay, yeah.
Because that was isekai as fuck.
Yeah, of course. I would say SAO, though, Sword Art Online.
That's the one that put it on the map.
For sure.
But, of course, like, parallel worlds, virtual worlds, whether it's, like, science fiction or fantasy themed, like, they have been running for a couple of decades.
Yeah, and isekais, for example, have... Oh, it's like you're living in a video game world.
I mean, to be fair, though, like, the isekais themselves have roots in, like, even older stories. Like, for example, like, Alice, they threw the Looking Glass as well, right? A lot of light novels, a lot of manga and games draw inspiration from those kinds of books. So, you know, it's not... You know, would you say it's like, what is it? Like,
it's a pretty stale but well-established genre, is what I would say.
Yeah. So, it's really popular.
Yeah.
It's really freaking popular.
And this anime season had a slime isekai, but the one that I watched was it's called So I'm a Spider, So What? Also known as the Spider Isekai. And how do I describe it? It is a high school girl who gets reincarnated as a spider. And I know when I say it like that, it's like, what is this? Is this anime? Like, what is going on? This is bullshit. Basically, when you think of the isekai genre and they get reincarnated, you become this hero that is overpowered, that has all these abilities. It's like a wish fulfillment power fantasy. But our main protagonist got reincarnated as a spider. And it's very interesting because I read the manga as well, because it's based on the manga. And the manga drew the spider quite differently than the chibi version, which is like the cutesy version of the anime. The 3D is also very prominent in the anime, and it's all right. Nothing terrible, but nothing great. But what I would say is really good is the voice actress, Aoi Yuki. And she's like, do you like the wind lolly girl in One Punch Man?
Yeah.
Do you like the frog girl?
Oh, yeah.
Asui from My Hero Academia?
Yes.
So she voices the...
Froppy, Froppy was... Mm-hmm.
And it's just very vibrant, very cutesy. And also the protagonist is written in a way that's really smart. Because, it's like the zombie thing of, oh, wow, what is this thing that's lunging towards me? Oh. And it's like, as a viewer, you're just like, this is a zombie. You're in a zombie apocalypse. So the main protagonist of the Spider Isekai is the same thing. It's like, wow, I got reincarnated as a spider. This sucks. All right, let's try to see what I can do about this. It's just smartly written. It's a parody off of the Isekai genre. And it's fun.
So this one of the season you would recommend?
Yeah, I would recommend. If you don't want to read the manga, you're just watching anime. It's a decent watch for sure, right. And I'll continue to watch it to see how it goes. There's a kind of a twist towards the end of the first episode, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, like as we mentioned as well, right? This is kind of like the season of the new and the old isekais. I mean, you've got ReZero going on. You've got Jobless Reincarnation, which is a show that we do want to get into, but we've got a lot on our plate already.
Yep.
As you mentioned, both Spider and Slime isekai. Now, there is one that I do want to ask, and I'm not quite sure whether it falls within the isekai genre. I think you have been watching it. It's something about boonies.
Okay, so it is not an isekai, but it is based on a light novel. So light novels, for the uninitiated, have a tendency to have really long titles. And titles that are very... Okay. You ready for this title? Will?
Hit me with it.
Okay. The title of the anime and the light novel is called Suppose a Kid from the Last Dungeon Boonies Moved to a Starter Town. Yes. That is the actual title and also the plot synopsis of that anime. And it stars this young boy who is the weakest in this village that is housed outside of the last dungeon that has all these monsters that can destroy the world, like apocalyptic. So he is the weakest in the village, and he decides to set out into the rest of the world to see what's out there. And it just so happens that even though he is the weakest in the village compared to the general populace of the world, he is by far insanely strong. But because he doesn't have a lot of self-esteem, self-confidence, he's very pure-hearted. So it's just gag comedy of this person just doing all these miraculous things, shocking and awing everyone around him, and he's just being like oblivious to it, like innocent and oblivious. It's kind of funny. There is a witch that is sort of like another supporting character that's really expressive and funny. That's about it I can say. It's a decent time. I would watch Spider Isekai over the Boonies. I don't even know how you would shorten this anime, but
shorten is in like the name.
Yes,
shorten?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's not. To be fair though, like we've seen some light novel titles, and that's not even the longest one.
No, I'm sure if you Google it, you will.
Oh, there's some. Like there's for example this one, which is I am a high school boy and a successful light novel author, but I'm being strangled by a female classmate who is a voice actress and is younger than me.
Wait, that's a title.
That's a title.
Okay. I'll deal with it.
There's other ones too, which is like, while killing slimes for 300 years, I became the max level unknowingly, or reborn as a vending machine.
Okay, to be fair though, the slime one, I heard they're either doing an anime adaptation of it or they have done it and it was okay. I don't remember because all these blend together. So, but what I will say is that this light novel adaptation of the kid from the last Dungeon Boonies moved to a starter town is all right.
Yeah. If there's anything you need to know, usually whenever you see like light novel titles, like for example, when you were talking about Spider Isekai, Slime Isekai, the full name itself is much longer than just calling it title Isekai.
That's why we have to shorten it. That's why everyone shortens it.
Yeah.
So
like for example, like a really popular show, Bunny Girl Senpai, right? The fucking whole name itself.
Wait, hold on. Is it Rascals Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai?
Yes.
Got it.
Bingo.
Nice.
Your medal's in the mail.
Good show, though. That actually is a good show.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's related to this other one, which is the asshole in the spring of his life does not dream of an upperclassman in a bunny suit.
This is a family-friendly podcast. Well,
no, this is a light novel. This is a regular. This is a light novel. There's other ones too, which is the probability I can kill my wife without being found out.
Oh my god!
Or
we do not condone this.
Or I want to eat your pancreas.
I want to eat your pancreas is
or
actually.
I saved too many girls and caused the apocalypse.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. We can go on forever. It's a fun time.
Dear light novel artists, authors, why?
Why?
Why do you make it so difficult? Like. If imagine you go to the library, it's like where you go to like a bookstore. It's like, oh, I want to pick out a book. Okay, sure. What are you looking for? I'm looking for a demon lord took a slave elf as my wife, but how do I love her? First of all, damn, dude, like you really want to you really want the police to get here? Yo, hey. I can hear the FBI knocking on the door. You know?
Yeah, I just pressed the button underneath the table, the silent alarm.
Yeah, so just simple titles. Come on, it's like the titles themselves are literally the synopsis of the fucking novel.
Okay, here is our suggestion with light novel titles, and then we will move on.
Yeah,
you play a drinking game where is this a light novel title, or you're just making shit up?
Yeah.
It's a great drinking game. You get drunk really fast.
I'd probably go blind at that point. Okay.
By the way, another thing. We're now moving on to news. It's a good segue. I wish I could unsee X-Arm.
So have we talked about X-Arm in the first episode?
Yeah, we did. We dropped it like it's hot. Yeah. Speaking of that, like 8 minutes into the episode, that is.
it's kind of those things where it's like, maybe carbon monoxide poisoning isn't so bad.
Oh, Jesus.
It is absolutely god-awful.
So then we thought we were done with it. We thought that was like, okay, just let it die by itself.
No. Your boy X-Arm made the news. So if people don't give a shit about X-Arm,
we don't give a shit either. But
perfect. But so we harped on how it was done really poorly, how they managed to not only fuck up the 3D animation but also the 2D animation and decided to put it together. I think they just ran out of budget. Like, in a way, it makes Berserk 2016 look like a masterpiece.
Okay, so we probably should give some context here. What happened in the anime is at the beginning of the 3rd episode, which I watched, the first 10 seconds it happens, 2 characters who are female kiss. But there is this weird kind of like ray of light.
It's a light. Yeah.
That censors the lips touching.
Well, that's the thing.
No.
You say censor. So the reason why it was done was because, as we've mentioned, how incompetent the studio is in animating this series, they weren't able to actually animate lips kissing.
Yes.
They could not get the mouths to actually move in the way that it made kissing look natural. And it makes sense because they never actually had characters who had their mouths closed at all throughout the series.
And I think it's theorized that the reason why the ray of light happened was because if they didn't show the light, they will show the 2 polygonal models clipping into one another.
If you ever had 2 dolls and you just smack their heads together, that's kind of what it was. Just
except it goes through each other for a little bit.
Yeah. So hey, look, I mean, they're a shit studio. They weren't able to actually make it work. Fine, cool. Except not cool, because word is on the internet now that it's being perceived as extremely homophobic.
Yes.
Because of the fact that it's 2 female characters kissing and the light censors it.
No, but Will, one of them is actually the main male character
Jesus
in
Christ.
the body of the android.
Yeah,
so then when they kissed, they exchanged genetic information. So then, all that I said is absolutely 100% true, by the way.
So
research, people, research.
Back onto the whole supposed homophobia thing. It's actually sad, but also hilarious that the studio was so incompetent with the animation quality that their incompetence came off as just pure gay bashing. Like, it just came off as just pure homophobia.
How is this possible? I mean, obviously it happened, so it's possible, but it's just like,
the bar is underground for X-Arm, and they managed to keep digging.
That's why I had to see it. I was like, how bad can it be?
You're a stronger man than I am. I could not bear myself to watch any more of X-Arm, even if it meant to see how stupid that little censored kiss was.
Okay, so
you did the research. So
yeah, I did the research. So Will, what is the next step up from X-Arm that they're gonna pull off or mess up? In your expert opinion.
Honestly, I think the next move they do is the studio just goes bankrupt and they cancel the rest of the season.
I think that would. I mean, we don't wish ill on
here's
people.
The thing. We don't want studios to fail. It's just more that if the product's out, we should be given a fair chance to give our opinion of it. And this is not opinions just of our own.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, we're literally reporting the news back to you from other viewers of this anime.
Will is staring into my eyes, and I feel attacked.
You did the research.
I did do the research.
So
that's X-Arm for until, I don't know, what was it? We watched episode 1, this is episode 3. So episode 5, we will get back to you on the next controversy.
I wonder what it will be next. Maybe because I keep seeing Reddit posts of people saying, you know what, this episode wasn't so bad. It's like, really? what did you watch right before to give it a fucking like 5 out of 10 review? It's like there must have been something else you probably like. What you do is you wash your palate and you watch Mars of Destruction before every single episode to remind yourself, hey, there is still one thing that's worse than X-Arm, except both of them are like literally 0.01 points away from each other in terms of the rankings on Mal.
Crunchyroll is doing great.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's a whole other. We do plan on touching on that in depth at some point.
Yeah.
But my God.
Yeah. So we've talked about, the news. Unfortunately, the news that we have it's not all that groundbreaking, but it's more just to show the ineptitude of the studio behind X-Arm and how wonderful things are going for Crunchyroll right now. But, we'll get back to Crunchyroll at a later time. What we want to do now is to, ring in the new year, ring in 2021. We never really actually gave 2021 a proper welcome. But in order to give it a proper welcome, you really have to say goodbye to fucking 2020.
Yes, we do have to say goodbye to 2020. So what we're going to do is, I think we're going to take a short break, but after we come back,
this is going to be a heavy episode.
Oh, we're going to go in depth.
We're not going to go too long, but we just need to collect our thoughts and really make sure that we say our piece, because a lot of shit has happened in the past 12 months, and we want to do it as much service as possible to cover the major talking points, the major discussions of 2020, and try and bring some hope and some joy and see what you can look forward to. We talked about some of the good anime we've watched in the past month. Why don't we also try and see what we can improve on from 2020 and make 2021 a better year?
Yeah, and not only that, but we actually read and watched a lot of anime and manga, Will, and we'll get into that.
It happens when you have nothing to do but stay indoors.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Restaurants closed, gyms closed, you can't travel outside, you can't be in parties of more than 2 people.
Well, I mean that
means actually what we could do is if we go outside and we go on like a little hike, we don't have to wear masks, and we can also have Crunchyroll playing in the background, so we can be watching anime as we're hiking outdoors. Hey, that's not productivity we can do. Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like I'm crazy?
Because you're perfectly sane, Will. That's exactly what we should do.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back to you in just a few moments after this commercial break.
Commercial?
This is where you put in the Genshin Impact stuff.
Okay,
right. Cool.
Got it.
Catch you guys soon.
Later.
So we ran through quite a few things earlier in terms of the shows we've been watching, a little bit of news, albeit terrible news. But this is the time where we get into the crunchy topic of episode 2, which is
actually it's not episode 2. It's
episode 2 in my mind because we've done 2 episodes. But by your logic, it is also correct. Numbering purposes, episode 1. We're going to be talking about 2020. A retrospective of what the fuck was going on in the past year.
So, what the fuck was going on in the past year, Will?
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware of this thing called COVID-19.
I mean, I've looked out the window several times.
Yeah, looked out the window and saw nothing because there's nothing going on. You can't go outside. You can't, have dinners. You can't go to the theaters without feeling a little bit unsafe. You can't even go to a park. There are so many things now that have been locked down that what else are you going to do but stay home and watch anime, right? But as we've seen, COVID goes beyond just, our own daily lives. It's also wreaked havoc on the anime industry.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
Last year has just been a very troublesome time for a lot of major studios, a lot of studios in general. So, if you know how this works in terms of, anime releases throughout the year, there are 4 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're starting off with, does it start with fall or start with winter? It starts with winter, right?
Because the winter goes from 2020 to 2021.
So, so you go from winter to spring, then summer, and then fall. So last year, a lot of shows were slated to release in orderly fashion, but because of COVID, hella shit got pushed back.
Yeah, I think I did a rough tabulation, and I might be wrong, but if we were to include anime, whether it is TV series or movies, and I think children's shows, I think we got up to like 80 something, like 87, something like that.
And so this is like spanning across every single season. So then you can imagine if things weren't coming out, a lot of seasons were quite barren.
Right, yeah.
It felt kind of empty at times, right? Like if we were to look into, for example, like, well, to be fair, starting off with winter 2020, there were actually quite a bit of there were quite a few good shows coming out.
I think that was because it was in the pipelines already.
And this was also like stuff that came in like in January, like February, like right before COVID really kicked off, right? So if we were to pick up a few names, the first parts of Haikyuu to the Top, Railgun.
Great show.
You say. I have still yet to go and watch it. Other things though, right? Like ID Invaded, Somali, Runway, Isaacen, one of my favorites, Dorohedoro, a cult favorite, I would say, Darwin's Game. That one was
That's a cult favorite?
People really like the show, but it's a death battle, right? Death battle anime usually
Battle Royale.
Yeah. Those things do well.
But for kids.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
Like kiddie version of Battle Royale.
I feel like if you've already watched Battle Royale, you watch anything of that ilk, like you don't really need to watch Darwin's Game, but if you like it, sure, go ahead and watch it. So it started off strong. Spring 2020 was okay as well, right? You had Kaguya-sama, you had Fruits Basket, Bookworm, Kingdom. The first of the Crunchyroll webtoon collaborations, Tower of God. I think the final season of Food Wars. That was also yeah. And then there was another one of those Battle Royale shows, Gleipnir.
Yep.
So the first couple of quarters, right, a couple of seasons, not bad. But I think you and I agree that summer 2020 was awful.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, because a lot of anime shows stopped. Like, they were in the middle of the season, and then they were like, hey, we can't pump out any more episodes because of COVID. We will put it on hiatus and come back hopefully in the fall. And some did. But, for example, Slime Isekai was supposed to be coming out in 2020 and got pushed all the way to 2021, which is now airing. But it was slated to appear last year. In fact, if anything, they made it a big deal last year. I think, actually not last year, 2019, where they would announce 365 days of Slime. Because literally it was Slime Season 2, then some sort of spin-off, another spin-off, and then back to Slime OG series again. And none of that happened until, like, I guess now.
Yeah, I even think, like, was it was either Fire Force or ReZero where they were going to air an episode in winter or spring, and then they had to push it back a couple months. I think it might have been ReZero, part 1 of the second season, and then now we're in part 2 of the second season. Still not watching it. I'm not touching that shit.
I'm not touching it.
Yeah. So it still sucked, but I mean, some things did come out. I mean, like, well, unfortunately, shit like Fire Force, like Sword Art Online. The second of the webtoon collaborations, God of High School, Misfit of Demon King, Decadence. That was, I think, that was that was a hit for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like top, but it was a decent surprise, for sure. A decent surprise.
And Snafu came out that season as well.
Oh my god, I have yet to finish it. But season 1 and 2 are season 2 especially is like so good.
Right. So you saw, right? Like summer 2020 was a result of shows being pushed back, meaning that they had to be aired later. That also meant that it was clashing with a few other shows that were slated to come out that season. So it was kind of a poor showing, but not because of the fact the anime industry was lacking. It was just the fact that everyone was hit hard by COVID. You start seeing some recovery. I think, firms were able to find ways to circumvent, being in the studios, but at the same time, it also meant that people are working overtime from home. And as we've seen, I've done it before with my job as well. Working from home, it can be done, but it can be, it brings its own problems.
I think it was fall of 2020 when things started to pick back up, whether it is COVID has calmed down a bit in certain countries or people are just getting more used to it because they have now been accustomed to working from home or working around the pandemic. So I think fall, for example, Haikyuu season 4, well, they call it To the Top season 2, which is basically season 4 part 2. That came out. Awesome show. Awesome finale. Jujutsu Kaisen came out. Golden Kamuy season 3.
I still need to get over the 3D bears from season 1, but once I get over it, I'm sure it's good. It's getting some pretty decent reviews, or at least for this season. So if you can get over the 3D bears, it should be a decent showing. There was also stuff like Over the Moon for You.
Yeah.
Sleepy Princess. Irregular Metric High School. Did I get that name correct?
Yes.
Yeah, there's that one.
The Visitor arc. I don't know much about the show other than the not so good stuff.
Yeah. But we need to spend a little bit of time on this season because I would say it's the big 3 of fall 2020, at least for me. I think for you as well.
I would actually even go far to say one of those anime that you're going to mention is probably top. Not like number 1, number 2, maybe not, but definitely very good highlight. Almost like a good kind of swan song to 2020.
Yeah. Of course, like one of the shows which you just mentioned as well, Jujutsu Kaisen, rightly belongs in that conversation. It's still airing because I think they took like a 1 or 2 week break, and then like the second part of the season is now airing.
Yeah.
Which you can watch on Netflix Japan. So there's still ways to be able to watch it if you can't access it with regular Netflix. Whether it's in Hong Kong or I don't think the US as well.
I think it's on Crunchyroll though.
That too. If you just don't want to go through the VPN thing, just watch it on Crunchyroll. So Jujutsu Kaisen, for sure, absolute must watch. Before we get into like the major hit though,
yes,
the sleeper.
Yes.
Let's talk about Moriarty.
Yeah, I like Moriarty a lot.
Moriarty was fun. It was a fun show.
It's not perfect, but it was every week we were let's watch this.
If you like Sherlock, you would appreciate the wittiness that goes into Moriarty the Patriot as well. I'd say it's
just brutal.
It's a fun watch.
It is fun.
But that was just part 1. Part 2 is coming out in April.
Yeah, that's correct, and we will be watching it.
Yep. But a show that you should be watching, and I've managed to get a few friends on it. I think you also got me onto this as well. It's fucking Akudama Drive.
So good.
It's insane how good that show is. And it just came out of fucking nowhere, too.
I remember this because I was like, I watched the first episode, and I was like, Will's got to watch this. And I remember talking to you over Discord, and you were like, hey.
What the fuck is this?
I was like, you've seen it already, Jason. You saw the first episode. Why? It's like, I was like, Will, just watch this first episode with me. I'll watch it again. It doesn't matter. And at the end of the first episode, if you're not sold, forget I mentioned it, but it's not going to happen. We will watch the rest of this. And then when you found out, I think in the middle of the first episode, you were Googling it and you found out the studio.
It was fucking Studio Pierrot of Tokyo Ghoul infamy.
Okay, yeah, we'll also get into that too as well.
Right? But it's weird. It's like the studio themselves, they're also known to have done Naruto. Right, that's another show which is kind of polarizing in terms of yes, it's super popular, but they also did terribly when it came to rolling out filler arcs. They're also behind Black Clover. Some also like really well received shows like Polar Bear Cafe, as well as what's the other one? Oh, was the other show that was Kingdom. Kingdom was another one that was also done by them too. So they do some good things, but it's not like a studio that I would say, oh, if we're watching a show by Pierrot, it's got to be good. There were so many red flags. It's an anime original done by Studio Pierrot. I had no prior knowledge of what the show would be. It just seemed like a recipe for disaster. It seemed like you were just trolling me.
Yes. And also, the aesthetics are like Danganronpa.
But it's so goddamn good.
It is so good.
It's so good. It's just crazy. It's just basically cyberpunk, like seven samurais, 7 deadly sins. You just get a bunch of criminals trying to take over an authoritarian society, and it's steampunk, not steampunk, cyberpunk.
And there's violence, and there's gore. It's just, and there's a heist.
And it's a very realistic retelling of what Osaka would look like in like 20, 30 years time. Like a lot of the landmarks and monuments within Osaka, for myself, like I've been to the Kansai region quite a lot. So being able to see the towers, being able to see like the food markets, the Dotonori Bridge, but like in a cyberpunk filter in anime was so cool. I fucking loved it. And then, of course, watching the show itself, we won't go into it. Just watch the show.
Yeah, we were looking forward to it every week. We watched it.
I don't think we missed a schedule. I think we just literally just watched it every single time.
We had to wait and watch this. Oh, it's coming out in an hour. Let's just wait and chill for a bit.
What's good about this, though, is like a lot of times the reason like before where I didn't go into seasonal shows was because if I found a good show, I wanted to binge it. I wanted to be able to complete it as quickly as possible. Just get into my system, watch it, move on to the next one, rather than waiting week after week of okay, maybe it's hype, but the momentum's kind of died down. It never died down with Akudama Drive.
No,
I think maybe one episode a little bit slower, but like 1 out of 12 episodes, and every single episode was just high octane. It was just great.
Yeah, and I feel like some people don't like the ending. I thought it was
poetic. It was really nice.
It's just good.
It's a good show.
It's a super surprise, and I don't know what else to say other than just watch it and be the judge.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, just write to us. Let us know what you think.
We're not swindling you, if you know what I mean, Will.
Good inside joke.
Yeah, there you go.
Go watch Akudama Drive.
You'll know what I mean.
Yeah. So that's generally like what was released over the past year. As you can see, certain seasons more barren than others, but the studios were still trying to at least find some sort of normality, trying to at least adhere to their work schedules and continue to pump out the good content they were supposed to be pushing out, just at a later date.
But I have to say, Will, 2020 has its fair share of crap. And I would say this year, despite the pandemic, had some pretty bad anime out there. Shall we get into this, Will?
You know that I personally don't want to spend much time not only talking about, but also like watching terrible anime. But I mean, it was slim pickings last year, right? We just had to watch something.
Look, don't watch Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045.
Oh my god,
just don't.
I mean, if it wasn't for X-Arm, it would have been 2045 as the worst display of 3D.
Probably, yeah. I would attest to that.
Like the thing is, like you would have to put in like a monumental pile of horse shit to beat that. But X-Arm came up and said, "Hold my beer."
So, just don't watch it. Watch any of the other Ghost in the Shell stuff. Even watch the original movie. 2045 does not exist for all I care.
Yeah.
But do you know what does exist, though?
Yeah, Tokyo Sinks 2020.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, my God. Okay, so I think if you've watched like the previous episodes, you will know how much I love Masaki Yuasa. I mean, he was the brain behind some of my favorite shows, like Tatami Galaxy, Aizuken, Ping Pong, some of like my top shows of all time. This was supposed to be his swan song. Like this was actually the last show I think that he was going to be doing with his studio, Science Saru, before moving on to do his own other projects. So Japan Sinks 2020 takes place in 2020, in which the city gets rocked by a heavy earthquake, and the city just gets decimated. If it sounds like Tokyo Magnitude 8.0, it's because it's essentially the same thing. That was also a show which I dropped in like the first 5 or 6 episodes.
You went that far?
Yeah, well, I went further with Tokyo Magnitude than with Japan Sings 2020. My God, it was absolutely terrible. Like, I understand when you're like talking about shows which have like, natural disasters or like zombies or monsters and whatnot. It's always the focus is not so much what's happening with like the disasters, but the human side. The humans in this show are really fucking annoying.
Wasn't there a guy in a wheelchair shooting a bow?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then apparently one of the saviors in the show was a famous YouTuber who's also a recluse. And just wears headphones half the time, and some reason I never got.
Is it
that
plugged
far.
into anything?
Yeah, it's plugged into a Zune, I think.
Oh yeah.
No,
Wow.
I'm joking, but the thing is, like, I never watched enough of it to appreciate it. It was a steaming pile of crap. I know there are people who finished it, watched it, and liked it. That's not me. I'm sorry. Now, I mean, is it worse than 2045? I don't know. I never watched 2045. I refuse to.
So it's like I watched 2045 one episode and was like, nah. And then I said, don't watch it. And then I said, how's Japan Sings? Tokyo Sings 2020. And you're just like,
I watched two. It's Japan Sings.
Japan Sings. Oh my God, my bad.
I watched 2 episodes and I had to drop it. It was not worth our time. As much as there were also other shows that came out during the last year, and that we either did watch a little bit and then just dropped it, or we just knew not to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So some of them included, for example, like Interspecies Reviewer.
Okay, wait.
This was a show that, I know we're family friendly, with a couple of F-bombs and shit, but we're not going to be talking about Interspecies Reviewer.
Wait, really? We're not?
Not in the sense that we're going to be talking about what the show is, more just why it's been pulled by a lot of companies, by a lot of channels from broadcast.
It's if you want to seek it out, you can seek it out. Let's just move on to Peter Grill, all right?
Catch us in an After Dark episode if we do decide to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Peter Grill, though.
I think that this is all you, buddy.
Peter Grill is like, it's like a human. It's like interspecies, but not the reviewing part. And I was just like, what is this dumb ass fuckery?
Dear anime studios, don't do a Peter Grill.
They did.
I know. Learn from history.
I mean, Ninja Collection was good too, right?
Oh, god damn. That was fucking awful too. Oh, god. Rent a Girlfriend. That was another show that came out.
So some of our mutual friends quite like Rent a Girlfriend. It's very popular. I don't care for it.
How's it compared to Domestic Girlfriend?
We have yet to finish that, but I think Domestic Girlfriends is trashy in a way that is just like good.
It's
like reality TV, except it's not reality, it's scripted. But
so here's the thing about reality TV. So my girlfriend and I have actually been watching a couple of shows recently. For example, catching up on last year's show, Indian Matchmaking, as well as Bling Empire on Netflix.
I don't know what any of these are.
Both of them are trashy reality TV shows, but for some reason they just know how to drag you back in. So yes, I do watch stuff that's not anime occasionally too.
And I actually do not watch anything that is anime.
Well,
I mean,
you're a purist. I understand that.
No, but anime is my life.
You just don't want to muddy the waters.
I don't want to muddy the waters. Don't want to spend time away from anime and manga. But Will, should we actually maybe say the plot summary of some of these? No, right?
No,
it's just not.
It's not worth our time. Let's talk about some stuff that came out last year that was actually good.
All right. So how about this? We just talked about some of the notable animes that came out in 2020.
Akudama Drive, Jujutsu Kaisen. Definitely watch those.
And those we watched together. How about the ones you watched on your own? Like Dorohedoro.
Do I need to say anything else? If you listen to my list on the last After Dark episode, you will know how much I love Dorohedoro. God damn, this shit is good. So good that I actually started reading some of the first couple volumes of the manga, and it's just as good. I think in terms of translating the artwork into animation, Mappa did a fucking good job. Really, really good. I fucking loved Dorohedoro. Good show. And a show that we both watched that kind of came out of nowhere as well, ID Invaded.
It's an original too.
Yeah, I think ID Invaded was a fun watch. It was fun. By no means perfect.
We didn't watch it while it aired.
I think we watched it a couple.
I think we watched it the next season. I think we watched it in the fall, and it came out. Actually, when did it come out? Will doing some live googling right now.
Well, we watched it.
You don't know? Can't remember?
I think we watched it like in the middle of the year, like in the summer. It came out in the beginning of the year. It came out in, I think, winter.
Okay, then that makes sense because we skipped. Yeah, it makes sense. We watched it in the summer. It's like it's Minority Report.
Yeah, so exactly. It's pretty much that. Actually, I just have some news for you. I'm not sure if you knew this.
Yeah?
There's a follow-up series to ID Invaded.
Yeah. I know. Broken or something?
ID Indeed.
What?
It started airing on Netflix, actually.
Wait, what? Hold. Sorry, do we have to stop the podcast and I have to check this out?
It's done by the same studio. In fact, like the first episode came out last month.
Okay. I'll tell you what. What are you doing tonight? We'll
catch up on this. We'll watch it. We'll get back to you in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll report that. We'll report back.
Yeah. So moving on to the other shows that we've watched.
So I actually wrote sort of like a bullet point list of all the anime I consumed in 2020 because working from home, or for me at least, I was taking classes at home. I was just in front of my computer all day doing schoolwork and watching anime and reading manga at the same, like not at the same time because that's just crazy, even though I did do that kind of. But the point is, I tabulated my anime consumption, just anime consumption alone. That list is long, Will. That list is super long. I wouldn't say I am proud of it, but my God, was it wonderful.
I think especially given the fact that there weren't as many shows airing on time, or even like when the season did roll out, there was nothing really like of interest. I think every now, like last year, every season there were like, at most 3 shows that we were watching that was like airing. So that meant that if we're at home, we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have Funimation.
You have lunch breaks. Yeah. I have like breaks from studying.
Yeah, so it's like this is probably the perfect time to be catching up on shows that we've had on our to watch lists, but never really pulled the trigger for one reason or another.
Yeah, and the thing is, it is interesting because I haven't gone that hardcore into anime, believe it or not. And because that there was only so much seasonal stuff I can watch each season, my backlog, it just keeps increasing. And I think with you, until rather recently, you have been kind of taking a break from anime as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before that, I was crunching a lot of shows. I mean, last year I finally watched Ghost in the Shell. I finally watched Standalone Complex.
Yep.
It took long enough for me to get into that. But also I finally finished off the Fate series. In terms of the TV shows, not the movies yet, because those ones aren't out. So we'll be watching those when they do come out. Other shows I watch, I mean, some with you, some of my own, like Dr. Stone, Durara, Dordo, Black Lagoon, Cross Ange. That one's we will talk about that
dope.
At some point.
We will talk about it somewhat. I watched a lot, but I will just say a highlights, and I'll start with a banger. 5 seasons of Symphogear.
This is all you, so I'm gonna take a break from this. Just listen to.
All right, let's go.
Listen to Jason's sultry voice and talk about Symphogear.
My voice is not that sexy, but I'll try my best. So basically, what is Symphogear? That is such a good question, Will.
Yeah, what the fuck is Symphogear? Come on, man. 5 seasons for this? Why would anyone want to watch this?
So it's like, magical girls like Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right.
Okay. Imagine that with Gurren Lagann absurdity mixed with idol singing, battling monsters, and brutality. You get Symphogear.
So I remember this was probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
You were like, if there was a clip that encapsulated what Symphogear is, it's this 5-minute clip.
Actually, it was the opening scene of the 3rd season.
Yeah, and after watching it, I was like, I feel like I've already watched all 5 seasons. Now, of course, if what Jason said interests you, you really should go and watch it.
At the very least, just watch the first scene, opening scene of the 3rd season. You don't need any context. It would spoil a little bit, but if it gets you to watch the show or understand what the show is about, just watch it. It is... I don't know how to explain it. It is so crazy. And the last season, the final season, which is good. I don't know, like... when I try to describe my fondness of Symphogear, no one understands me. Hopefully someone on the internet does. I'm sure there is, but...
There's probably someone patting themselves in the back for being, you know what? I also watch Symphogear.
Mad respect, Jason,
don't worry,
right?
Jason, I got you.
I got you, but if I could even convert one person to check out the opening scene of Season 3, well, come on, please, somebody out there, just watch it. Wouldn't you say it's crazy?
I'm just gonna wait till tomorrow just to have a look at our Twitter DMs and our email just to see if someone out there has listened to your plea and come back and said, "Yeah, don't worry, Jason, I got you. I fucking got you."
I mean, I also watched Railgun.
That was another one that I didn't watch. You did though. So.
Heard plenty of good things about Railgun. Which is funny because it's a spin-off of a light novel series called A Certain Magical Index, which is basically science versus magic fighting one another. And A Certain Scientific Railgun is the science about a side character in the Magical Index being the main character in Railgun. And I heard lots of good things, and I think Season 3, Railgun T, aired in 2020 or some Railgun S. I keep forgetting. And
just type Railgun and Google it,
and it's really good. It is really good. And there's so much good stuff that I watched. Well, I mean, what else did we watch, Will?
Well, I mean, we talked about Cross Ange for a minute, and I said we would talk about it another time. But do you want to just break down what Cross Ange is?
So, if I were to say dragon to you guys, the listeners.
It's basically a Yuri mecha with idol singing and some magic and dragons.
Wait, don't you mean Symphogear?
That's why I can see why you like Symphogear, because you also really like Cross Ange. I really like Cross Ange.
Yeah, but Cross Ange is trashy in a way that is good.
It's so good. It's funny.
Do you remember that one episode where we were just like, okay, this is pretty brutal. This is dark. This is dark. And then there was that one episode. Do you remember?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And then it's
episode
12?
12, yes. Like one, if it's the same one that I'm thinking, it's when the whole tone just gets insanely depressing, and then
because it involves two main heroines,
and this is right before the rescue arc.
Yes,
I know what you're talking about. Again, no, this is something that you'll have to
take our word for.
Just watch Cross Ange.
We also watched Bookworm.
Bookworm was interesting. Again, I'm not just like I'm not really big SOL fan, like a slice of life fan. I'm also not too hot on isekais, though last year I did end up watching a lot more isekai than I would have. I mean, for God's sake, we watched season 1 of Log Horizon last year.
Right, that is true. So just so that we're clear, I think the full title of Bookworm, it's an isekai. Do you remember the full title, Will?
No, I don't.
It's like Adolescence of a Bookworm, I think it's the title.
Okay.
I also think that it's a decent show. A friend got us into it, right?
Yeah, this we may need to bring him on, because I think for him he's pretty decent when it comes to getting into the light novel game web novel game.
Yep.
These kind of shows, I think, like they have a certain affinity to him. So if we were going to be talking about these shows, it'd be a bit of a miss if we weren't to have him on the podcast to talk about it too. So, look, Bookworm, good show, but I don't think Jason and I are the ones to really talk about how good the show is. We need some backup. We need some reinforcements. But
we watched Rocky equivalent.
Yeah, Megalobox was great.
It's a boxing anime on Netflix.
Yeah, if anybody knows of like Hajime no Ippo, which is like a really famous 70s or 80s manga / anime, they did like a what was it, like a reimagining? It's kind of like a modern reboot of the series. Megalobox is great. It's basically
it's an underdog story.
Yeah. It's like if you were a boxer, but instead of just boxing, you also had robot arms.
But he's gearless.
Yeah. He ain't got no robot arms.
Yeah, man. How insane is that?
It's a good watch. That's another one, and they just announced the next season for it, or like another series.
Yeah,
for
season 2. They call it Nomad, I think.
Yeah. So hey, if you want more fighting shows, here's one to get yourself into.
Should we talk about Keijo? Let's talk about Keijo.
No. We're not talking about
Keijo.
But Google Keijo if you want, and then we'll if there's enough interest, we'll talk about it in another episode.
But we name dropped it, so we did our part already.
Yeah, I think there's probably a few other shows we should watch. No, we should talk about first.
You mean like Dororo?
Dororo was Dororo was such a good show. It was such a good show, and then they reached the halfway point, and then they fucked it up.
And the worst part is, I think
they had the greatest opening set for it, done by Queen Bee. The opening, I've told you before,
it really grew on me.
I skip openings. This one I don't. I don't skip the openings to the first half of Dororo because Queen Bee Fire, that song is straight flames. It is so good, and then they fucked it up. You know what was really sad about it as well?
Yeah.
The second half was done. The opening was done by Asian Kung Fu Generation,
which is like your favorite.
I fucking love them. They did the openings for like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Naruto, Erased as well, Tatami Galaxy. So good. It sucked. Part 2 of Dororo sucked. It was so. I mean, like I just refuse to believe that it exists.
Listeners, you can't see this because this is audio, but Will is fuming right now. Like just looking at his face, he's like clenching his teeth. He's like struggling real hard. But I get it because the first half was legitimately good, brutal in a way that, and violence in a way that was. It was heartbreaking, but it was good anime.
If we're gonna give it a rating, but not using like the Mal rating system and using our own system, it was easily a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, and then the second,
at the minimum of 4, which is like still very, very good. Halfway point comes in, and
we were excited at the time.
Yeah, like it was riding such a momentum for us. Like we were just like, this is so good. I can't wait. The hype is real, and then it shot a fat brick.
Yeah.
It was just depressing to see how it turned out. I mean, okay, it wasn't that bad. It's just that I had such high expectations of how the whole season would roll out that seeing the second half was just no. But I cried. I actually shed a tear. I poured one for the homies that had to, develop this atrocity.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting.
But what I would say is, for me personally, and you as well, we actually watched a lot of Studio Trigger properties.
Oh, yeah. Last year for me was when I finally got around to starting and finishing Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill. I mean, the fact that I watched them 6 months ago and they've managed to make it into my top 10 recommended lists in the After Dark series.
I watched Promare. You need to watch that show.
That one, the movie looks pretty insane.
Sorry. That movie was really good. We also watched My Little Witch Academia, which is very, I don't know, like Harry Potter-esque, but was good.
I think Trigger is a great studio, but for some reason, the shows that don't really get well received on the internet.
I don't understand why, to be honest, and I'm not trying to troll here. just don't get it.
Like, I mean, outside of Gurren Lagann, which, is still technically not a Trigger property, it's Gainax, right? That one holds like an 8.63 or 8.6 plus. All the other shows are below an 8.1, and that's including Kill la Kill, which I think both of us have in our top 10 personal list.
Yeah. Well, not my top 10 because I had to choose. But
well, no, personal, not recommended.
That is true. Okay.
Right?
Yes,
so if it was based on the last episode, tough. But if it was, for like, oh, these are my top 10, these are your top 10, we can make a case for it being in there.
Yes, definitely. I also feel like I watched Kisniver.
You watched a lot of Trigger. A lot more than me, but we know how much of a Trigger fan you are.
Yeah.
You absolutely love the studio.
And Kisniver, I think, I don't know, a lot of people don't like it. I really liked what they were going for, and they didn't quite stick the landing at all, but I feel like I have to give them credit because there's not a lot of shows like that tries to attempt to answer or, like have themes that are like that. So I'm just Studio Trigger boy. What can I say?
Yeah, for me, I'm a Mappa boy. I mean, there's some studios I really love. I mean,
but God of High School isn't that great.
I mean, UFO Table, I love David Productions, I love.
Yeah, but they did Fire Force. It was gorgeous though. But
what's that?
Okay,
I'm sorry. I can't hear you over the JoJo theme. I'm sorry. Like I can't hear anything. What fire? What force? No. No.
Do you know what the opposite of fire is? Is water and Grand Blue.
See, I find this a really difficult topic to discuss because of the fact that the manga, at least on Mal, is very well received, and it's also like done quite well on the anime front. It's well received. It's got a good score. You and I watched it along with a mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
We did see there were like some real good like drops of comedy
in the beginning too, and then it became dude bro frat house.
It was hard to watch those episodes. I think,
and there was one in particular.
Very rare. I mean, like obviously, like for me, like I got really pissed off with how Doro ended. So rightly so, I was mad. But very rarely do we have a show where like one specific episode or even like a sequence of episodes ends up pissing off everybody that's watching it.
Yes. And it was unanimous. It wasn't even like, oh, it's not that bad. It was just like, what is this bullshit?
I don't know if it's just us like really not connecting with that side of humor. Granted, of course, it's like this is still a medium that's done fully from a Japanese perspective. Neither of us nor our mutual friend are Japanese. Maybe there might be a few things that were like missed in translation, or maybe we just didn't understand certain cultural aspects of the jokes. But it was a very infuriating 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't great whatsoever.
I don't think the opening or the ending are that great, but those two parts were the best parts of that episode.
I like the opening.
Right?
I like the opening quite a bit. So
Grand Blue was not worth our time.
You know what? Noblesse is also not worth our time too.
I mean the fact that we don't even know how to pronounce it? Noblesse?
Because we don't even bother. It's
Noble C.
It was just a clusterfuck because it's a Crunchyroll webtoon, the trifecta, right? It was Tower of God, and then God of High School, and then Noblesse. And then Noblesse had an OVA, but then the series came out that was not the OVA because it continues from the OVA. It was just wicked confusing. And it also was not great. So, for example, like God of High School, and I think we'll talk about it in like a very Crunchyroll-centric episode.
Oh, it's going to be a crunchy episode for sure.
We're going to munch on that.
We will bring in reinforcements for this one. We have a guest lined up. We're in discussions to get him in. He's got a pretty tight schedule. Man, they're busy. But we definitely feel that this specific topic, the Crunchyroll webtoon collaboration, is something that needs to have its own episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's a hefty one. Speaking of heft, I think this would be a good point to take another quick break. There's still a few more things we want to roll out for 2020, but we'll just give you a little time to collect your thoughts. Grab a drink, get some water in you. Remember, stay hydrated, because especially with COVID, we want you to stay healthy. So we'll get back to you in a couple of minutes, and then we'll wrap up the episode.
All right, catch you later.
All right, see you soon.
we are just wrapping up some thoughts about 2020.
It was a shit year, but I mean, there was still quite a few good things that came out of 2020. I think, we managed to watch some good shows. We watched some not so great shows. We also saw some shows just blow the fuck up.
And also we managed to make our plan to watch list just ever so smaller.
I think we managed to complete 1% of it.
I don't even think I've completed 1% of it.
It's hard. There's so many shows that, like, I think this is the issue that not just us, but a lot of the listeners have as well, which is there are so many good shows out there. We just don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
It's because of the fact that a lot of shows kind of blend into similar genres. And it's like, well, I've already watched this show. Like, why do I need to watch that show? Even though it's also, like, similarly rated. Or it's more like, I never really thought about branching out into a different genre. I still want to watch more slice of life. I still want to watch more, like, suspense thrillers. It's going to take a lot to convince me to change tact and start cracking onto these shows. Which, understandably, if you want to branch out and really, like, further your palette in anime, like, you got to start picking up some stuff that's outside of your comfort zone.
So as much as people try to forget about 2020, I would have to say that 2020, interestingly enough, is a year where a lot of forgotten things came back into the anime world.
Yeah, I think, as much as we talk about new shows or stuff that, like, got sequels, and we've already talked about those in the first or second part of this podcast. Some shows that have come out in the last year are shows that we had just not heard from in 5, maybe even 10 years. We're talking about, like, old school classics that some of us might have grown up watching, some of us might have been watching back when we were in college, or maybe, like, in our early 20s, and then all of a sudden just came out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, by the way, we're revamping the show.
Or, hey, there's a remake.
Oh, there's a long-awaited sequel. You should get on it. Like, one of them was, like, for example, like Chihaya Furu.
Yes, Chihaya Furu was 6 to 7 years worth of wait.
Yeah, I think the second season ended in 2013, and then the third season came out, like, late 2019, early 2020.
Yeah, it was a double cur, so it kind of extended from...
So parts of it came out in 2020.
So it still counts, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they start literally where season 2 left off. Like it was just like the next episode. But it was 6 to 7 years, man. It was good, too. And it's good. It's good. It's the same thing, but hey, Chihaya Furu, same thing, is really good. I think everyone should watch it if you can. It's really hard to explain how the anime is. It's a sports anime, but not really. I don't know.
It's one of the cases of, if it ain't broke, just go and watch the show, right? Like, if it worked the first couple times, surely it'll work again. And this is an example of it working again.
Haikyuu also came back after 4 years. Phenomenal season 3.
So you really have to explain to me, because, as I've mentioned, sports, I love. Anime, I love. Sports anime, I just can't get into it. So what is it about Haikyuu that you feel that the non-sports anime lover in me would be able to change my mind?
So, YouTube reaction streams of anime episodes, I would feel like you see some of those streamers, and they take off their headphones and walk or pace around the room, and just think, oh my god, what is this? What is this? It's crazy, what the fuck? And I always go like, nah, man, like, why? You're just doing this for show. There were at least 2 to 3 moments in part 2 of Haikyuu season 4, which is To the Top second season, that was genuinely touching, and was just, either I was reeling in my seat, or I was like,
you're running laps around your room.
I'm gonna like, wait, I have to replay that 30-second segment again and again and again. To be fair, when part 1 of season 4 came out, it was good. But it wasn't like, and I think a lot of people felt that way too. It felt like a letdown after that long break. But it turns out it was building up to part 2. And the payoff was, there's so many good moments I just want to share. And I think a mutual friend of ours really likes Haikyuu. And he and I just, in a separate WhatsApp group, was just gushing over it nonstop for 2 hours on end. It's just such a good show, man.
So if there was one thing, like, if we're going to be saying, oh, what are our New Year's resolutions? I know it's already February. It's been like a whole month since going into 2021. But
Chinese New Year, though.
Well, yeah, okay. So we have technically another New Year coming up. If there was one thing that I myself should do as like a, quote unquote resolution, would it be to get into more slice of lives, like more SOLs, or start watching Haikyuu?
You do what you gotta do, Will.
No, but I need guidance here, senpai.
I mean, would you really commit yourself to watching slice of life wholesome stuff? I mean, Horimiya, it's pretty good.
And I used to watch a few of them when I was a teenager. When I was in high school, I've watched, as you mentioned before, like Honey and Clover, Nodame, Cantabile. Yeah, watch those.
Mm-hmm.
So surely, like, if I just tap into, young Will's mindset, maybe I'll bring it back.
Okay, gun to my head, right? I have to choose between wholesome
slice of life
or Haikyuu. It would be Haikyuu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a hard one for you then.
Well, it is a hard one, but
with a gun to your head.
With a gun to my head, that's what I'm going to do, because I think it will take some time for you to enjoy slice of life stuff. I think it will be very easily captivating to get you into Haikyuu.
It's the hype, right? It's sports hype. But not just sports. It's hype. It's anime. It's sports anime hype.
It's like Friday Night Lights.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, now that I've said it, now that I have to talk about this resolution, I guess I got to commit. All right. Okay, cool. I will say by... Well, almost all the seasons are on Netflix. If not, then they're on Crunchyroll. It's not hard to find Haikyuu.
No, absolutely not.
It's more just finding the time within my busy anime schedule to actually sit down and watch Haikyuu.
I'll tell you what.
You're not watching every single episode with me, no.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If that.
How many seasons is it? 4 seasons?
85 episodes total.
Okay.
I think it's 20-something, 10, and then 12-12 or 12-13, something like that, yeah.
See, that's not hard to do. I mean, like, look, I've watched, like, all, like, 150-something episodes of Hunter x Hunter 2011. I've watched every non-filler episode of Naruto. That's a lot, too. That was, like, almost 700 episodes.
Hey, you don't have to watch it with me, but just give me the play-by-play like you did with Gurren Lagann, and it's like as if I was watching it with you. And
it's funny you say play-by-play, especially since it's being a sports anime. You would want to play-by-play. You want me to go over the highlights, right? The sports highlights.
There is just so many good things about it. I'm like that guy.
Tell you what, if you're listening to this and you feel like I'm still not that convinced about watching Haikyuu, write us a message. Tweet us, write us an email. Tell me why I should give up everything I'm watching right now and just solely focus on Haikyuu.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot on my plate right now. Like, man, I'm still watching AOT. I'm still watching Jujutsu Kaisen. Mm-hmm. There's a few other shows on Netflix that I've been waiting to crack open as well. But Haikyuu is also on there.
It's really easy to just press play.
It's also crazy that GTO is on Netflix too.
That's a good show.
There's so much stuff. Fuck.
You remember Bleach?
Wow, nice segue, bro.
Yo,
funny enough,
I was just checking the next bullet point.
All of the Bleach episodes, I think all of them, if not most of them, are also on Netflix. But
is it?
What I actually tried to do was actually rewatch Bleach, and I was wondering why was there so much hate about Bleach, and then I started watching it, and it was wow.
Do you want to like wash your eyes with Bleach? I don't know.
It's not that it's bad. It's just, well, it was kind of boring
and repetitive. The cycle.
Yeah. I mean, it was also done by PRO as well.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. You and Piero just need to like sort this shit out, man.
I mean, they're slowly making amends with Akudama Drive. If they're able to continue that kind of trajectory, like producing an anime original, or at least produce something that is of that quality, I will be closer to forgiving them. At this point, still no.
Yep.
I mean, they're not as well. Do I hate them more because of what they've done with Tokyo Ghoul, or do I hate Studio Dean more of what they did with Fate Stay Night?
While you decide that, I will then say the reason why we mentioned Bleach is because this year came out Burn the Witch, a 3-episode OVA, and it's about talking about Harry Potter and stuff. It's Harry Potter with dragons.
I think it's set within like the same continuum as Bleach, right?
Yes.
It's just in an alternate world, or actually within the same.
No, it's
universe?
within the same universe, but a different location. And it's all right.
Like a certain magical universe, right?
Yes.
It's almost like a isekai, almost like another one of them random light novel amalgamations.
But if we're talking visual novels.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Higurashi.
So Higurashi also came out too.
Season 5, yeah.
Snafu is done now, right?
Yeah, Snafu is done. I have yet to finish it.
Oh, another one that just had been coming out steadily the past couple of years, but like after like a long period of like nothing. Fruits Basket.
So it's a remake.
Yeah. So it's but it also came out like many a year after.
I think it's 2008. Was the first season of the remake,
and now the final season is coming out this year, right, or last year?
They call it Fruit Basket's the final, and I think that's coming out either this year or next year. But I watched season 1 and parts of season 2. It's really good. Again, there's just so much good stuff out there. It's almost like there are a lot of shows that are worth watching. Will that? Is just you could throw a stick at whatever and then you hit a good anime series.
So I think it was like 18 years in between the original Fruits Basket and the recent remake. Funny enough, the original one was also done by Studio Dean.
Okay. Yep.
They're fucking trash. Oh, well, I don't know. I haven't seen anything recent, so I can't really say about it. But back in the day, back in the 2000s, god awful. Do not watch the original Fate Stay Night. Just watch Unlimited Blade Works and Fate Zero. Or if you've got the time and you are able to find some sort of official English translation, play the visual novel. I mean, you didn't hear from me. You didn't hear from me.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But 18 years between like the original and the remake of Fruits Basket is quite long. It's a long time.
And it's a good remake. It is a legitimately good remake.
Now, the next one that we wanted to talk about, which, admittedly, neither of us have as much experience with it. There was a show back in the day called Inuyasha, right? So in the last year, they actually announced and then started rolling out the sequel to Inuyasha after like a 10-year break called Yashahime, which is what I think like the princess half demon or the half demon princess. Princess Half Demon. Yeah, that's what it's called. We can't really talk too much about it because I haven't watched either this show or Inuyasha. I just know that it was really, really popular in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
Enough to the point where people on Facebook, people on Reddit were just like nonstop talking about how they could not wait for this the sequel to come out. So I think in order for us to actually enjoy it, we would have to find the original series and then come back to you after we've not only consumed that, but also watch the sequel.
So, going off of things that we consumed growing up, I have in my room some manga in Chinese, of course, and one of them is Shaman King, and they announced a remake.
Oh, but Jason, that one didn't come out last year.
I know.
It's coming out this year.
I'm just saying
Isn't it coming out next season?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, this momentum of rehashing.
You see, in Jason's quest to being the ultimate weeb, he's trying to bend the rules so that he's able to include stuff that's coming out in subsequent seasons when we're still talking about a retrospective of 2020. I see what you're doing.
You know what? Fine. Just censor it. Just cut this out of the episode.
No. I'm leaving it in.
Okay,
just so you remember. But the point is, anime is great.
Anime is great.
There's a lot of good anime, and rightly so. Okay, if we're going to talk about Shaman King, I didn't watch it, but like I knew it was hype. I knew it was a big deal back then, and now the fact that it's coming out now. Is it a remake? Is it a sequel? What is it?
It's a remake.
Oof. So much like how you had like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, how much like you had like Hunter x Hunter, how much you had like Fruits Baskets.
Yeah, we'll see how this one goes, but I'm definitely going to check it out.
Do you know what the studio is that's doing Shaman King?
I don't remember. I just remember watching the announcement trailer and then being sold and being like, all right, whenever it comes out, I'll watch it. No questions asked. Childhood memories.
So it's going to be done by Studio Bridge.
I have... What have they done?
So they've done some Yu-Gi-Oh! Some Card Captor... No, sorry. No, this is Card Fight Vanguard.
Those are all kids shows, yes.
Fairy Tail, but not all of Fairy Tail. They've done some episodes. It was kind of like... Because Fairy Tail had like a bunch of different... studios collaborating.
Swish hands,
yeah,
right?
They had like A1 Pictures, Cloverworks, I guess Bridge also did some episodes for them. Another one that you might know of, Talentless Nana.
Yeah, so that came out in 2020.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? It's talentless, right?
I watched the first episode. There's a big twist at the end.
It didn't hit for me.
People think that it is the bee's knees, and I'm like, I'll watch something else.
It did not slap for me. It was not great. Mostly because it felt like a lot of the tropes they were harping on were done better in other shows.
Yeah.
It felt like if you had put Future Diary into My Hero Academia, but done with a not as well-known studio, it came off as subpar for me.
I just feel like you're going to hate me for this, Will. I would give it a 3.5 stars out of 5 or a 7 out of 10 for Talentless Nana. It is...
In case you didn't know, Nana in Japanese means 7. I like where you're going with this, but I don't know why you would have to make a joke out of it. It itself is a joke. I don't see why people should be watching the show.
But what isn't a joke is Demon Slayer. We didn't get to see it, unfortunately.
Yeah, the movie, the news is all over the place in terms of how well it's done. Not just how well, like how it actually like rewrote the record book.
Yes. We will have to get into it in depth at some point because I feel like no one can ignore Demon Slayer anymore. And I remember this because we were agonizing over watching it because it came out on my birthday, I remember. And I was like, hey, when you get off work, can we watch this? And then I was like, but COVID. And then I was like,
you're right, yeah.
Yeah, nah.
We'll figure out a way. If it's still, like, I don't think it's airing anymore.
We're going to have to wait till, like, rent it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait till, like, it's hosted somewhere or, like, the Blu-rays are out. But I think we definitely should watch. I mean, you've read ahead, right?
I've read all of it.
Yeah, so you know what to expect. I mean, speaking of Demon Slayer, like, how long did it take for you to actually pick up Demon Slayer? Because Demon Slayer, like, started up and blew up in 2019.
I did not know it existed until after the anime.
Yeah, so that was it for me, too. It took a while for me to actually get into it. Not because of the fact that, like, I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy it, I didn't care for it. It's more, it was just that, like, there was just so much hype, and people on the internet wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. That was just like, you know what? No, like, I don't want this noise. I don't want to, like, have to watch this in the a crowd of people just nonstop, like, jerking it off and all that. Like, you I know it's good.
Okay.
I know it's good. You know, put your hands back in your pockets, and then let me see what this is all about. Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
It's very good.
It's very good. It's just what it is.
It's about a Demon Slayer.
It's about a person who slays demons.
How the hell did this show end up breaking not just box office records for the movie, but also setting records for manga sales. The fact that it was the first manga that managed to outsell One Piece in over 12 years.
I also remember taking the subway back home and you just texting me a screenshot of the manga sales for that year, for that year, and by volume, and place 1 to 19 is just Demon Slayer. This is in Japan sales.
I think out of the top 20, only one of them was One Piece.
Yeah, it was the sole one.
I mean, granted, like One Piece has been running for well over 25 years. So there was bound to be someone that would take its place. But I think to this day, though, still, like One Piece is the de facto number one just based on sales in general. But we also cannot discount the fact that within 4 years, the manga has sold over 120 million copies. Paperback, hardback, digital, we don't have all the numbers, but the fact that it's creeped into into selling over 100 mil. 100 mil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
4
astronomical
years.
numbers.
4 years.
It's quite a feat.
We don't have time to talk all the numbers, all the stats, and what it means for the rest of the industry. I think we will really need to find another time, another episode to talk about it. But look, I like Demon Slayer. You like Demon Slayer.
I do like Demon Slayer.
I think people who are listening to this have either watched it or like have already finished the manga themselves,
or heard of it at the very least,
and are like waiting to watch it. You know, we don't need to further endorse it. Like, it's already done the rounds.
We don't need to endorse it. You would have probably watched it regardless of our endorsement.
The bar is set really high.
Yeah.
For any other series that wants to take the top contender list.
So, Will, I think that covers up pretty much everything 2020. But if you were to say, let's say 3 or 2, how do you want to do this in terms of?
Oh, you're talking about like. Oh, I know where you're going with this. You want to talk about like anime that we've watched in 2020, or like shows that came out in 2020, and we want to talk about which ones we liked, which ones we weren't so hot on.
How about we just do the ones, not our backlog, but anime that came out in 2020, and just, pick, I don't know, 2 or 3 that you want to highlight for people to check out. I can go first. I feel like Akudama Drive, we have already harped on it quite a bit. We wholeheartedly endorse it. It's cyberpunk. It's only 1 season. It seems pretty definitive by the end of it. I think they can do more, but it's just good original anime that not based on anything prior to that, but inspired by a lot of cyberpunk stuff. But I would say, if it's not obvious enough, the 2, I would say, outstanding shows that I consumed that aired in 2020 is Kaguya-sama Season 2 and, of course, Haikyuu. I think those are very somewhat typical answers, but for me, there's a reason why they're typical. It's because it's universally liked and beloved, and I feel you owe it to yourself to either watch Haikyuu or read Kaguya-sama, or the other way around. Just find the time to check either one or both of them out, and I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised.
Not a bad list. I think that for me, the shows that I really liked last year, I've talked to some extent about them in either the After Dark episode or throughout this episode. One of them being Dorohedoro. Absolutely must watch. Have to watch it. Akudama Drive. That one's also an exciting time. But I am going to suggest a very left field one, which is, it's not a great anime. It is a ridiculously stupid anime. And depending on how you perceive it, it can be very, very, very entertaining. It's Hypnosis, Mike.
What?
I know it pains you to hear it, but hear me out.
Oh, God.
Hear me out. If you like rap battles, If you like pretty boys, I'm really harping on the pretty boys because that's all the show is about. And if you like A1 Pictures, I believe it's done by A1 Pictures. If all that sounds good to you, fine and dandy, I think you should give it a shot.
The reason why there's a bit of silence is because my palms are covering my face. I can't. Yeah, sure. Hypnosis Mike. Yeah, sure. Of course.
It's a fun old time.
It is not. But yeah, you should just check it out so then you can understand my frustration.
This is not a troll suggestion, by the way. I think you really should just check it out. It's just it's so dumb that I don't want to compare it to Akudama Drive because that was
why?
Because that was also a very dumb and exciting show. But this is also one of those dumb and if it fits you, it's entertaining. Just go watch it because I already know you're going to watch Dorohedoro and Akudama Drive, or even watching a show that's ongoing right now, Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm telling you shows that you would probably not have picked up anyway. I'll be blatantly honest as well. I also dropped Hypnosis Mike, but I want someone out there to report back in after watching it or have already watched it and let me know what you think. Am I a dumbass? Am I talking out of my butt? Or am I onto something that, hey, maybe I shouldn't have dropped it and I should actually finish the whole thing? Let me know in the comments. Let me know about them in your tweets and your emails. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Now, moving on to the next part, though, this I think this is going to be the final wrap up of shows that we've watched. Rather than talking about shows that we thought were bad, I'd rather us talk about shows that disappointed us. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that it was a terrible show or a bad show by any means. It's more just we might have had expectations about it. There might have been some hype that was carrying the show, and therefore it led to a certain level of excitement. And when we watched it, it failed to deliver. It could still be a good 7 or maybe 8 out of 10, but it might not have reached that high bar that we originally set it. You know what I mean?
I already know what I'm going to say.
All right, go ahead. List, however many shows. I'd say...
I already got the one. It doesn't matter. Everything else doesn't matter to this. It's got a high school.
Somewhere out there, there's a clan of Webtoon fans that are just waiting to get you by the head. Just parade your
Hey, I got into Webtoons this year.
Yeah.
We're not going to mention manga and Webtoons that much because we're kind of going a bit too... Because I can talk for hours about Webtoon and manga. I read Webtoons. I read God of High School. I read, so many good Webtoons out there. I was hyped for God of High School. And I watched the first episode, and it was full of energy, kinetics. It was good. The music was good and everything. Very international, kind of... And then the Red Noses. And then episode 4. I don't need to say anything about that. People who have watched it will know what episode 4 is about.
Did you drop it or finish it?
I finished it because I had to see it through. And
it's one of those, I've gone too far to give up now.
Oh, no, it wasn't even just that. I tried to spoil it for you by trying to tell you the power level in that anime.
Oh, no, I'm going to watch it myself, too. I'm going to see what the hell is going on with the show.
Yeah, so... there's just so much to like about it, except there isn't a lot to like about it. It should be liked. It should be beloved. You know what? I just need to finish watching Tower of God. Then I will know. Because Noblesse, Tower of God, and God of High School, just complete the Webtoon trilogy and just figure it out from there in terms of how I feel Webtoon adaptations can be. And how well it can be adapted in anime form.
All right. Well, you've made a compelling argument for me to, as to why I should watch God of High School. It's just so that I could be disappointed later on, right? But there are good parts to the show.
I think that's the part that hurts the most. If it was really bad, then whatever.
It's easy to discount it, right?
But there's so much good and even brilliance in certain areas.
Let's not forget it was also done by MAPPA.
Yes, and it shows, as in, positive. It's a good thing. So what about you, Will? What you got?
This one was actually quite easy for me too. It's a show that we both watched. I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, but I guess the argument you made for God of High School was very compelling. This was super, super hyped. It's The Great Pretender.
Okay.
I think, look, by all means, it's not a bad show. If you were to just like know nothing about it and you watched it, you would probably enjoy it. You would probably give it like a solid 8, maybe a 7.5 out of 10.
Like 3-4 stars.
Yeah, something like that, right? Like you would say that it was an entertaining show. The problem I had with this show, and I think to an extent for you as well, was people were talking so much about this. Like there were so many influencers and YouTubers, even like friends within our circles, talking about how the show is brilliant. It's smart. It's it's basically about swindling people and trying to
Ocean's 11,
basically like doing like certain heists, certain like smart plans to outthink your opponent. In which case, specific to this, they're just trying to steal money or steal something from a victim, from an enemy.
Like Robin Hood, basically.
It started off pretty interesting. You can't also like deny that the color palette was phenomenal.
And the music.
Wood Studio did a really, really great job in terms of making this thing look and sound fantastic. But much like how David Productions put in the work for Fire Force, it was only then let down by the delivery of the plot, in which it felt kind of cheap. At times, it felt like there were certain situations where all they had to do was literally pull a rabbit out of a hat, and there you go, case closed. Or, someone was in danger. You know what? Pull another rabbit out of the hat. There you go, that person's saved. And you just move on to the next case. You move on to the next story. And you don't really see much brilliance come out from the story. You're more captivated by how it looks, how it sounds. The voice acting is, I'd say, pretty good in it. But you still are missing a core element of any good show, and it's the delivery of the plot. It's how you're able to carry the story further. And by the time we got to the midway points before the last case was due to come out on Netflix, you and I dropped it.
Yeah.
Not so much dropped it, we just didn't continue it.
And then we just got onto other better stuff. But I feel like maybe we should revisit this at some point, because it is possible that the reason why we think the pacing in the story is not good is because each of the arcs, the cases, are short, whereas the second part is all one case that is the equivalent of 2 to 3 cases. So there is a good chance that the Shanghai case, the last case, is actually good.
Yeah, to be fair, the score it got on my anime list, it is a pretty high score, but I think it was as a result of everything coming out. We only watched up to the halfway point because at the time, that was when, at least here in Hong Kong, that was the amount of episodes, the amount of cases that had been released, and we had to wait like another week and a half, 2 weeks before the next part. So
it wasn't. It was
way longer than that. Oof. Okay, then yeah, that then more reason as to why we dropped it.
Yes.
I mean, as you said, our backlog is thick. We got a lot of shit to go through, and sometimes you just don't want to wait around and see if this mediocre showing could potentially be good. It's kind of like how we feel about a lot of shows, which we'll probably touch on at a later point. But yeah, in terms of disappointment for me, it has to be Great Pretender. It's a harsh one, but until I get round to watching the last case, I don't think I'll be changing my opinion on it. Well, so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So what did we learn about 2020, especially within like the world of anime, right? Like, is there any major takeaways about 2020? Is there anything that, we've learned we want to carry over into the new year, into 2021, and hopefully improve on?
There's just good anime out there, and whether or not rain or shine, pandemic or not, it will always be there for you.
No matter what, through thick and thin.
Yeah, man.
Anime will be there for you.
There's some good stuff. There's some bad stuff. There's some exceptional stuff. There's some abysmal stuff. But hey.
Hey, bad stuff can be entertaining too. It just depends on how open you are to, watching something, and how wide your barometer is for entertainment.
Nothing is perfect, but
no.
Anime is perfect for me, Will.
Yeah. So even if it is trash, we will give it a shot. unless we have enough prior knowledge and research to make a
sound judgment
before we tackle it. Because again, anime is great. It's just not enough time to watch all of it.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we've moved past some of the rougher parts of 2020. I mean, we've already seen hella news coming up for 2021 about new Netflix and anime studio collaborations. There's a lot of stuff coming out. One thing I'm very
Are you talking about High Rise Invasion?
There's that, but actually one even bigger one, which I'm very scared of. Not because it's a horror manga.
Uzumaki.
Yes, I am actually terrified about Uzumaki because as much as I loved reading the manga, I am terrified as to how it's going to be adapted, because I think I didn't watch it because I've already heard enough bad things about it, but people were not hot on the Junji Ito
collection story. Yeah.
So the fact that there was a live action for Uzumaki.
I watched it when I was a teenager.
Must have been a really a rude awakening as to what Japanese movies are all about, or just movies in general.
And then
right?
I watched Ju-on, The Grudge, and then I watched Dark Waters.
Did you ever watch The Ring, Ringu?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I actually did my my high school film studies thesis on Ju-on and Ringu. It was a great semester just watching Japanese horror movies. I don't know how I managed to get a B+ or A- for that. It's good times.
It's good times.
Yeah.
So that hopefully wraps up most of 2020. That doesn't mean that we will not revisit animes that came out in 2020, but for
far
now,
from it. Yeah, there's the stuff that we've watched. Like for example, Moriarty is going to be coming out again, part 2 in April. Jujutsu Kaisen's still running strong. Hopefully, maybe Pierrot comes up with another like batshit crazy anime original.
I mean, I talked like maybe 10 seconds about it, but webtoons and manga is already like a big thing that we couldn't even fit in this episode.
Yeah, the reason why we weren't able to watch more anime was because of the fact that we both signed up to webtoon
and also read a ton of manga.
Yeah, I think man,
it's
just
good.
So much good shit.
It's so much good stuff, bro.
Read JoJo.
Don't
read Dorohedoro.
Okay, I will do that for sure.
Read Tokyo Ghoul.
I have been reading Tokyo Ghoul.
We'll get into that.
I'm
so happy you're doing this.
All
right. Just to wrap things up, as always, we've been blessed with wonderful music for this episode. The opening, as always, at least for the regular episodes, the regular numbered episodes, is done by... hold on a second.
I got it. So our intro music is Green Lights by Jahzzar from the album Tumbling Dishes Like Old Man Wishes. You can get the album from the Free Music Archive.
We'll be probably running with that intro for quite a while. At least for season 1 of the Good Anime Palette podcast.
Our break music is Min 2019 by minwbu. Our outro music is What You Thinking, the instrumental version by Wataboy. You can also find us at Gmail. Our email address is gapalette@gmail.com, one word. You can find us on Twitter at PaletteGood, which I still think is the best automatic handle that they gave us right away.
Yeah, seriously, guys. I mean, like we have all these methods for you to contact us. We would love to hear your thoughts in terms of maybe some of the shows that we have been watching and that you think we might be interested in checking out other shows. Maybe there's something that you think we might be wrong about, or maybe you feel that is a bit misunderstood and you want to give your 2 cents. We're more than happy to discuss that, listen to it. In the end, we want to. We know we've got great taste in anime. We know we've got our palettes are quite refined, but they can always be a little bit improved.
Yeah,
like how I've always been watching like edgy stuff. Maybe now, maybe some more comedy. Maybe for you need to tap into the darkness a bit more and maybe finally get into some Black Lagoon and Dorohedoro.
Yeah, we'll see in 2021 how that goes.
Yep. So hopefully everybody continues to stay safe. We'll be reading a few more episodes in the coming weeks, looking to maybe roll out one more after episode. And be sure to tune in when we do a special guest podcast, which details are still being confirmed, but you'll hear from us first. So, without further ado, this is Will and Jason.
Yep, this is Jason.
That's Jason.
Yeah,
I'm Will.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll catch you very soon. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch you very, very soon.
Happy 2021 and happy Chinese New Year, everyone.
Sunny Phai Lok.
Sunny Phai Lok.